international competition to combine both men's and women's scores for a team result. And we have many countries competing here at the Hershey Center, leading up, of course, to the Sydney Olympics. Hi, everyone. I'm Vic Rauter, working along with Elfie Schlegel, who was a member of Canada's national team for 10 years, a World Cup medalist and a Commonwealth Games champion. And yes, those Olympic Games are just around the corner.
Vic, the importance of this competition is that it's taking place in an Olympic year. Many of the athletes that you'll be seeing in this event are actually going to be competing in Sydney. It gives them another opportunity to perform the routines in front of the judges under a little bit of pressure to see where they're at this point in time, with just a little over 2 months before the start of the Games.
As we move now to women's competition, and on the uneven bars, this is Anna Pavlova of Russia.
And one of the youngest competitors in this competition. She's just 12 years old, obviously not old enough to make the team for Russia at the upcoming Olympic Games. The women have to be 16 years of age. She has most recently won the European Championships on this event.
And we should explain that, because that's a change in Olympic eligibility, that you have to be 16.
In 1996, the age limit was 15. She's doing just a fantastic job, Vic. She's worked so beautifully. Top-notch skills in this apparatus. Beautiful dismount. That looked very easy for her.
9.7 for Anna Pavlova. 12-year-old Anna Pavlova. A name for everyone to remember in 4 years' time.
Definitely one of the bright stars for this team.
From Ukraine, this is Irina Yaratska. And again, not eligible for the Olympics because of age.
One of the newcomers to this team. She's just 14 years old. Recently placed 4th at the Junior European Championships. The interesting thing with the Ukrainian team, they have produced the last 2 Olympic champions. Another excellent exercise. Almost sticks the dismount. Of course, that's going to be a couple tenths of a deduction.
Oh, and that's the difference, Elfie. She's currently 2nd behind Anna Pavlova as she scores a 9.6.
Here we take a look at some of her intricate movements up on the high bar. Beautiful release element. You can see she took that well above the bar.
A familiar face, a familiar name from the Atlanta Olympics. This is Shannon Miller of the U.S.
Vic, she is by far the most decorated athlete that the U.S. has ever produced. Many were surprised to see Shannon return to competition. They figured that she accomplished all that one could accomplish in a gymnastic career. But last year at the World Championships, Shannon watched her team. Big mistake for her right there. That's an automatic 0.5 deduction, 5 tenths of a point. Shannon was in China last year and watched the U.S. fall to 6th place in the world, and she said to me at a press conference, you know, I think they could use some help. And as of January this year, she decided to make the comeback.
She's 23. How old is that? I mean, is that too old to be competing at this level?
Many say it's too old for gymnastics, but with the new age requirement, 16, for someone like Shannon Miller, her philosophy is, if I can still do the elements, what's the big deal?
And the fall does hurt her as she scores an 8.85.
And this is something that Shannon can do in her sleep. It's very unfortunate, just really off in her timing. Very uncharacteristic for an athlete like Shannon.
With her coach, Steve Nunno. Yang Yun from China.
Well, the Chinese all but own this apparatus. They have been innovators on this event. A lot of that is due to their beautiful line in all their handstand movements, not to mention very difficult skills. Working on the low bar, which is a requirement. The women have to work from low bar to high bar. In this day and age, it's almost become like men's high bar. We see so many of the women performing elements on the high bar. That's a release element. Just her dismount, double layout. One small step, beautiful exercise.
But certainly a name that we should remember, Yang Yun from China, who scores a 9.5 to leave her currently in 3rd place.
Here we'll take a look at some of the lines and the beautiful work She moves into a heely turn. You can just see a little extra flair. Just pays attention to intricate movements.
Anna Pavlova of Russia is your winner of the uneven bars. Crystal Gilmore of Canada finished 12th. Ukraine is first after one event. Canada is 6th. The beam and more men's floor. When we come back, Gymnastics Challenge 2000 TSN. First, Canada remains in 6th position. Let's move on now to the women's vault. This is Dong Fengxiao of China.
I talked about some of the great Chinese athletes that were sent to this competition. Well, Dong Fengxiao was 6th in the world last year at the World Championships. Yeah, that's a really tough break for this team. Remember, they have to count 2 out of the 3 scores.
And she scores 8.6.
Just didn't have enough height in the air, Vic. You can see she's trying to complete 2 rotations and just doesn't have enough height to complete it. Of course, a 0.5 deduction.
Also from China, this is Yang Yun.
She's most recent, was crowned the national champion on this event. Oh. You know, I saw her left hand actually slip from the horse. She did not have anywhere near the height that she was trying to achieve for this vault. You know, the Chinese came in with the highest scoring value of the vaults. They came in trying to accomplish the most difficult vaults, but take a look at her left hand. I think this is where it went wrong. It just slid right. She got no weight off that hand whatsoever.
And then it's the result of landing
that's a nasty
on her
fall.
head, scoring
Yikes.
7.6, and we hope she's all right.
That's a bad fall.
From Canada, this is Crystal Gilmore.
That's a nice looking vault. Crystal was actually 5th all around at this year's national championships. She was part of the 1998 Commonwealth Games team that placed 3rd.
From Australia, this is Lisa Skinner.
You could see very quickly there was a number right behind Lisa. That indicates the type of vault that she's performing. Really nice. Nice job on that vault. Again, remember, the women are only doing 1 vault, so it has to count.
Once again from the United States, this is Shannon Miller.
She had a rough go on the uneven bars, so we'll see what she can do right here. Beautiful vault. Shannon didn't come to this competition with her top move. This vault was only valued out of a 9.6. That's the maximum score that she can receive.
And Shannon scores a 9.325, and that's enough to give her the women's vault event. Just ahead of Hamilton's Joelle Ouellette, who has a wonderful women's vault to finish 2nd. And after 3 apparatus in the nation standings, Ukraine leading, Canada still 6th. The men's 12-year-old Anna Pavlova, who already won the bars, now tries to win women's floor.
And no question, she is going to steal the hearts of this audience. She's just so tiny, but already has perfected so many movements in this sport.
Anna from Russia appears to, for somebody so young, have the feel for the music and interpret the music.
And Vic, that comes from their hours of training in choreography and ballet bar. They really do take the time to teach their athletes, which is very important on this exercise. Had a moment to talk to Anna through an interpreter, and it was just such a delight to speak with her. She is really, truly having so much fun in the sport. In fact, she said, it's really not difficult for me at all.
For those not familiar, you have to work all areas of the mat?
You have to cover the complete 40 by 40 floor exercise mat, and what she's doing is she's doing a wonderful job doing that, but also this is her 4th tumbling pass. That takes a lot of energy.
And you're right, she's won over the crowd here at the Hershey Center. Russia's Anna Pavlova scores a 9.6. From Brazil, this is Danielle Hippolito.
Yeah, she's one of the top athletes in their country, actually placed 27th all around at the 1999 World Championships. I believe it was the best ever result for Brazil.
famous flamenco club in Sao Paulo.
Tons of power in this exercise. What's interesting is the Brazilians are using this competition to select their 2 athletes to represent them at the Sydney Olympics.
And isn't it interesting when you look at the 2, when you look at Anna before her, the difference in body.
Yeah, very powerful athlete. Of course, showing all the powerful tumbling movements in her exercise. It's been a trend on the women's floor exercise to perform at least 4 tumbling passes. The Brazilians as a team placed 18th all around at the World Championships.
Interesting move on the head.
Always trying to be creative and innovative for those judges in the audience. Final tumbling pass. Triple twist. Outstanding skills in this routine.
Danielle Hippolito of Brazil scores a 9.6, leaving her tied with Anna Pavlova. Welcome back to the Hershey Center as we continue on with the women's floor here at the Gymnastic Challenge 2000 from Brazil, Diane dos Santos.
Yeah, she was the bronze medalist at last year's Pan American Games. Actually started the sport very late at age 11. Very entertaining. This young lady can tumble. She has so much spring in those legs.
And as you mentioned earlier, Alfie, the Brazilians are using this as their Olympic trials. So 4 women athletes competing for
2 spots.
Wow.
Except for her final tumbling pass. Just a walk in the park for her.
What a routine for Diane dos Santos as she moves into first place with a 9.7.
A real treat on this exercise, as I mentioned, Vic. She just has so much power in her tumbling. Look at this double pike at the end of her exercise. Most of the women would be breathing quite heavily.
Earlier we saw her stumble off the vault, landing on her knees. This is China's Dong Fangxiao.
Yeah, China really didn't have a good day on the vaulting event, but back to the floor exercise. She is the national champion on this event.
It when you competed, that the crowd got into the music?
You know, I was just going to say, this is one of the opportunities. You pick the right piece of music, try to get the involvement of the audience to help you along. Yikes, a little bit too much power. That's a 1/10 deduction. She's actually doing a really nice job. The choreography is perfect for her selection of the music. The Chinese have not traditionally been strong on the floor. Their events have always been the uneven bars and the balance beam.
And you make the point. It's not just the quickness, the strength, the agility. It's the show.
It's the show. The complete package, as we say, of tumbling and dance.
Dong Fangxiao of China. And she scores a 9.475.
Just an amazing opening tumbling run, an Arabian double front. This is one of the most difficult tumbling movements that women are doing on this exercise.
But she winds up 5th, the winner in women's floor. From Brazil, Diane dos Santos. Saga. On to the women's beam now, and from Australia, Lisa Skinner.
Yeah, she's one of the top 3 athletes in Australia. The Australians were absolutely thrilled with their performance at last year's World Championships. They placed a record high 5th as a team, and you can imagine how the audience will take to that placing at the upcoming Olympics, right in their hometown. So they're looking for a terrific placing there.
How wide is that beam?
Well, it hasn't changed since I was an athlete, but it's still 4 inches wide.
But the sport has changed, hasn't it?
The sport has changed incredibly, especially on this apparatus. The women are doing many more tumbling movements and combinations that we'll see right here. A tumbling exercise, a punch front summy right into a jump element. Combinations, that's what it's all about on the balance beam. And of course, balance has everything to do with it. You have to maintain your shoulders and your hips in line with 4 inches.
If you're wondering what it's like, I guess the best way to think about it is when you were a kid and you were walking down the street and trying to stay on just that little curb part, falling off into the gutter.
I used to practice a lot of my routines there. Lisa is actually coached by Stacy Ume Lees, who is the sister of a former great Canadian gymnast, Stella Ume.
Lisa scores a 9.675. From France, this is Elvire Teza.
And she is very good on this apparatus. In fact, has 2 moves named after her. The first one comes early on in her routine. Getting set for it right here. Not a lot of room for error there, is there? Very difficult element. It's one of the highest difficult skills in the code of points.
Is there anything called an Elfie?
No.
No?
There's a series of tumbling movements which is required. Elvire is a veteran of the French national team. She was in the 1996 Olympic Games and actually placed 16th in the all-around.
When you come up with a move like that, when do the officials say, you can't do that?
I think they scrutinize many of the skills that come up in the sport. We see many elements that the judges would rather the sport not take that direction, but a move such as what Elvire performed, she would have performed that at a World Championship or a World Cup or an Olympic Games in order for it to be named after her. 2.5 twists for her dismount, just 1 small step on the side, but that was a solid performance for France.
And first place with a score of 9.625.
Here's another look at that full twisting back flip. And then she does a back hip circle around the balance beam, pulls herself back up. That's a really tough move.
From China, this is Dongfang Xiao.
Remember, she was 6th all around at last year's World Championships, and she was also a finalist on this apparatus. She was 7th on the beam. If she does what I think she's going to do, this is by far one of the most difficult moves, and she took it out. Typically adds a full twist to that element.
Now she's able to pull out elements on her will. Does she not have to notify people that what her routine is going to consist of?
The judges should be able to judge the routine as they see it. Obviously, she has enough difficulty in this exercise for her to feel comfortable. If she doesn't feel on, she'll take it out. She did, however, perform it in the warm-up leading up to this.
But there are, like in all the events, certain maneuvers that you have to
There are
perform.
certain elements that you have to perform, although in the sport of gymnastics, there are so many elements you can choose from. Again, like the floor exercise, the balance beam is comprised of dance elements that include jumps and large leaps, as well as the tumbling movements that we see take the entire length of the beam. There's a dismount, round off, double tuck, small step on the landing.
Good enough for first place, a 9.7. There's more of that, plus parallel bars when we come back. Canada remains in 6th place. Quickly back to women's balance beam from China, Keilin Zi, who's recovering after falling.
And this is right at the end, her dismount, a beautiful 2.5 twist to end the routine, but unfortunately, she did have a fall. Remember, her teammate Dongfang Xiao scored the highest score that we've seen so far on beam, a 9.7. Here's where the fall occurred on a tumbling series. Just couldn't hang on. So what is important is that the 3rd Chinese athlete must stay on the balance beam in order to keep China in the lead.
This is Yang Yun, also from China.
She has been named to the Olympic squad. The Chinese have selected 9 women, 9 male athletes, and they will take them all to Sydney and decide the final team just 24 hours before the competition. Showing great flexibility in her split leaps. Again, the women's balance beam is all about combinations today, not just the difficult tumbling passes, but combining jumps and leaps along with the acrobatic skills. Very risky elements. The Chinese have 2 national championships per year. She just recently won the Chinese Nationals, which took place in May. Looks like this is a score that they'll be counting. She's just setting up for her dismount. Very interesting dismount, happens off the side. Double twist. And that's the score they'll use.
Boy, and it's a good one. First place, 9.8 for Yang Yun.
Take another look at this full twisting swing down. Boy, you have to be absolutely in line with that balance beam.
Shannon Miller from the U.S. That's an interesting mount.
Shannon, of course, is the Olympic champion on this apparatus. Has enjoyed a healthy career, many wins on the balance beam. Has not, however, had a great competition. The combination was supposed to combine it with a jump. Of course, the women will get bonus points for combining their movements.
We mentioned that Shannon is 23. Would a competition like this get her to maybe rethink her future?
She perhaps will do that, but knowing Shannon Miller, when she makes a decision, she pretty much sticks to it. This is a move that, well, not something that is characteristic of Shannon Miller, which is falling off the balance beam. I can't remember the last time I saw her do that.
And now having to get right back on the beam, regain the focus, when maybe the first inclination is to just say, I've had enough.
Shannon is a tough competitor. I think her reasons for coming back were just wanting to help the United States, and really felt that she could get herself back to an international level. Double back dismount, lots of height, unfortunately takes a second fall.
She'll score an 8.1. So disappointment for Shannon Miller.
Yeah, Vic, this hasn't been the comeback that she was hoping for. Here's the Miller. Was supposed to complete the twist and just doesn't stay on top in her handstand. A very difficult element. A lot of twisting and turning. You can see that you have to be bang on in order to complete this skill. A move that she performed at the World Championships and had named after her following the meet. Lots of height here. It wasn't a lack of energy, just had a little bit too much to give on the dismount.
Consolation from her coach. From Missisauga, Ontario, this is Aubrey Taylor.
Aubrey just finished 7th at the national championships this year, and she's hoping to make the Olympic team. Those trials are in just a couple of weeks.
A native of Columbus, Ohio.
She's actually been training at Gymnastics Missisauga with Alex Bard and Svetlana Dekteva for the last 4 years. She said one of her strengths is that she's able to focus and keep herself calm, and I tell you, that comes in handy when you're on the balance beam. Punch front summy into a wolf jump. Those combinations will give her bonus points. and getting set for her dismount. She's going to tumble down the length of the balance beam. 2 flip-flops into a double twist.
Oh, very nice for Aubrey Taylor, who scores a 9.575, and she'll wind up in a 5th place tie behind the winner, Yang Yun. The closing ceremonies here at the Hershey Center for the Gymnastic Challenge 2000. In the team standings, China